Or thinking is what produces your ions, should I say. So that's one thing I just want to go over real quick.
Okay. Definitely. That's definitely a good answer. I mean, the answer was, real long, but check this one out. I got another question as far as the ions. Could you explain, the nature of ions and why should we even be focused on ions? And give me more explanation into that, because I know people got those type of questions.
Well, it's good to be focused on ions because, when you really, I'm just going to go over the real basics, is when you look at an atom, and an atom is one thing, but when imbalanced, it becomes two things. And the two things that these ions become, or these atoms become, are neutrons and protons. Those neutrons and protons are hydrogen ion. And that's the actual abbreviation I use when I say ion. I actually mean hydrogen ion. But ion is used universally. When said, it is known what exactly is meant when spoken. So when I say ion, I actually mean two, or actually, depending on which aspect, it is always going to equate back to the atom. So it's actually which ion are you talking about? Are you talking about the neutron, or are you talking about the proton?
Okay. So
did I answer your question, or was that?
Yeah, let's start off with the neutrons and exactly the nature of the neutrons.
Well, when you start to go deep into the neutrons, you start to see actually what the neutrons are and what the ionosphere of those particular neutrons are. So we start off with looking at it from a purely physical standpoint, and you're going to deal with a matter. That's what that aspect, the neutron, is dealing with, dense matter. There's also dealing with acid. There's also dealing with the masculine energy. There's also dealing with the solar energy. It's dealing with the opposing side, that everything that protons are not dealing with. Start to understand because it is the opposing side. So to be balanced, you actually have to be balanced between the neutrons and the proton. You have to be balanced between the acid and the alkaline. You have to be balanced between what is inner and what is outer space. You have to be balanced in feminine and masculine. You have to be balanced in solar and lunar energy when you look at it in its totality. All of it together was meant to one process and one being, one feeling. That feeling is duality. That knowing is duality. That understanding is duality. The duality not only between, should I say, the solar and lunar or masculine and feminine, but also through the absolute and relative. That's definitely a point to understand when you're dealing with the ions as well.
Okay. So I guess the question at hand now is exactly how do we get a pH balance as well as a balance between the masculine, feminine, solar, and lunar energy? Where do we begin at? Where's the first step?
A lot of people want to delve into healing. They really want to start taking herbs and really, heal themselves. They want to go into this healing aspect of, I got to start healing myself. But, really got to understand how you got sick to begin with, and then you can go ahead and heal yourself, because at least at that point you won't get sick again. So a lot of times it's the lifestyle, it's the re-education, it's the food for thought, not just the food you consume, because your mind has been really given a very dense, and this dense source has people speaking dense property and dense words and dense frequency. And this dense frequency is pulling them down into a particular, how should I say, element that is more earth and that is more water. That particular element keeping them from an understanding and not going to be able to break soil and see light and feel. So a lot of times people speak, and they speak imbalances because they themselves are imbalanced. So it's stand squarely and view yourself as speaking squarely. So pH balance has to do not only with food you eat, but exactly what you entertain and what you intake as far as thought, as far as what you process. So one thing is understanding. I hear a lot of things about alkaline and a lot of consumption of alkaline. You have to consume a lot of alkaline, and there's a lot of alkaline. And that's very true. Based off of the state of the mind right now. The mind is heavily masculine. The mind is heavily solar. The mind is heavily, matter, and heavily earth, and it's heavily fire. So in order to balance that, because that's acid in retrospect when you look at it in frequency and vibration, all of that is acid. In order to balance that, you have to equate a lot of alkaline. Now, alkaline is a lot of the element of water, a lot of the element of air, a lot of feminine as far as the particular energy, lunar, as far as the inner self. All those particular words describe the higher and lower self, the particular frequency that lays on the particular half of that particular half of the scale. So alkaline is definitely needed. Now you want it to the point where you bring balance. When you bring balance, you actually need both. You need alkaline and you need acid. When you look at the food charts, you go deep and you see that mostly a lot of fruits are acid and a lot of vegetables are alkaline. And that's the particular balance, fruits and vegetables. When you go into meats, you start to understand that meats, that's a whole new science as far as I can see. Now, when you consume meat, you're consuming dead flesh. I mean, in the particular way that I see people consuming them, they're not actually going out and hunting and gathering. They're actually going to the grocery store and using a Federal Reserve, to tune in to a dead frequency. So that's an equation that just looks like failure to me. There's no energy in the meat that they're consuming. So it's telling me because it lacks or has no energy, then it must be doing the exact opposite if it's not giving. So that's just the law to understand. So meats are pretty much taking a lot of your life force from you, which is causing a lot of the energy within your body to cease and develop into particular ailments, along with other lifestyle issues that may entertain other ailments.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was just reading about, how the cities have so much pollution and actually, takes away from the negative ions in the air, which, is a detriment within itself. So I definitely see where you're going with this thing, with understanding the nature of ions and how ions is definitely conducive to our spiritual awareness and our soul awareness, body awareness, etc. One other question I want